Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lighthouse Sessions. As always, I'm excited to have a new friend today, Sameer Ranjan. Sameer, why don't you tell my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Hi guys, my name is Sameer Ranjan. Excited to be here. I am an entrepreneur. I have created companies in the past, and I'm a scientist as well, which is I research on the things and whatever I think can help humanity in the larger goods. I basically go create a product out of it so that it can reach to the masses. One of the key area that I work is talent intelligence, where I'm trying to make people understand their skill, their strength, so that they can be upskilled better, they can be hired better, they can be internally mobilized, they can know their true potential, and they don't have to fear about the changes due to the rapid environments.
Uh, okay, I have so many questions, and we're going to get to all of them at some point, probably. Worst case, we have you back. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of doom and gloom, and if you spend more than 5 seconds on LinkedIn, AI is coming to take people's jobs. People are saying, I'm seeing a lot of, I'm desperate, I can't find a job. One of the things I, as an entrepreneur, do a lot is I'm always focusing on upskilling, because if the market doesn't want what I have today, I owe it to myself to figure out what the market wants tomorrow. So, what trends are you seeing that I would guess? Okay, so first of all, you have data scientist, you have scholar in your background. What is the data telling you? Let's go with that.
Right. Okay. Amazing. So, if I have to look at the data, the job market is changing. It's not declining, it's not rising, it is changing. What by that I mean, the requirements in the labor market right now is shifting more towards people who know the blue collar jobs, plumbing, HVAC, and all those things rather than the tech. And why they need it? So that tech can be supported. So it's just a shift in how the job market is happening. Now, in terms of data and upskilling, we have seen the highest number of college dropouts that are happening because kids don't believe that education system will help them get a job. Now the second thing is, since they are not getting educated, they are not getting upskill, it is creating much more confusion, much more issue in for them to get the jobs. And the people who are actually going to graduate or graduating, they don't have the skills that is required to do the jobs of tomorrow, because the curriculum was so outdated that the college couldn't keep it up and they couldn't keep it up. So there's a huge gap in the market. Jobs are there, but we don't have people who can go to the job, or the jobs are there for which in the last 10 years, America didn't prepare. Like, we didn't prepare enough welders, we didn't prepare enough plumbers. We thought the coolest job is kid being an accountant or a software engineer, but to run the accounting softwares or be a software engineer, you need to have data centers, you need to have AI centers. So this is the gap, and this is what the data is telling right now.
I love that. And I think it's fascinating to me because I have two teenage sons, and we're looking at it, they're debating, do I go to university? And for the first time ever, I'm looking at it going, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's not an assessment of, is university good or bad? I'm actually completely indifferent. But the real question is, does it prepare you for the world we live in today? And I'm fascinated by this, and you're a data scientist, so we're gonna have some fun here. Um, in the old days, technology changed slowly enough that we could drop somebody into a 4-year university program, and then we could look at the market and go, okay, we got this many students, we're gonna have jobs. But I don't believe that the jobs my teenage sons will have exist yet.
I agree. I agree. I think I can take an example of social media manager. There was no job like social media managers pre-COVID era. Nobody was social media manager. After that, that became an industry in itself. Now, social media manager also came with content writers, content creators. So a lot of things happened uh, because like post COVID era. The thing is any of the university teaching anyone how to be a social media manager? The answer is no. Uh, if, we had like prompt engineers couple of years ago. Now nobody needs a prompt engineer. So yes,
Yeah.
colleges are not able to catch up with the speed at which the technology is changing. And also, I have my personal feeling that people who usually teach in the colleges, they have to come from an industry background. They cannot be pure academia, because pure academia was fine and it works if you are in the research sector. But if you want to create employable resources, you have to have industry at the table. You have to, maybe this is again, I'm spitting a future where I believe the bigger industries will have smaller colleges inside them, where they will have their own resources.
Well, and honestly, I sound like I'm cranky and crazy, but I look at the old model. And when I say old, I'm talking 15, 1600s. You had the master, you had the apprentice. There was no scaling it. It was, you're not going to learn philosophy if you're a bricklayer, and that's okay. But the fascinating thing to me is that the original university was not meant to be about getting a job when you graduate.
Yeah.
That evolved. Originally it was learning how to learn, learning how to think, learning how to be a well-rounded human. That was a luxury at one point. That was, going back to ancient Greece and Rome. It was the world of the elite. They sat around and pondered things. But I think now, I'm fascinated because the trade schools have always done it right. You work for the master, you're the apprentice, you work on the job, you learn your skills, then you go to school for a semester or whatever, and then you come out and then you apply those skills, and it's constantly evolving. But I think what we need to see, and I'd love your thoughts on this, the average person needs to be active in their development rather than passively, I have my degree, where's my job? It's my job needs these skills, I'm going to learn them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think like, yeah, your notion is actually very correct. We have stopped creating thinkers and innovators. We have became the mass industry for job seekers, not
Yeah.
even job creators. So we are basically pushing out millions of people every year in the industry, where they are just going and looking for a job. But we are not creating enough creators and enough thinkers, and that has been a huge issue since. And this is not just, I'm not just talking about one country, but across the world this is
Yeah.
same, right? Be it a billion people country like China and India, or a 300 million pack like Europe and Americas. Same issue is there. Yeah. Also, I'll just think like 1500, education was not a business. It was a noble cause. Now it is a
Yeah.
business. So business always comes with ROI, right? Now, since we are talking with entrepreneurs, it is like if somebody has invested $10,000, $100,000 in a degree, they will expect a return of $1 million. That's how
Yeah.
a business person thinks. So
Yeah.
education has become business.
Well, it's funny. I haven't really actively thought of this a lot, but when my youth, I did what everybody did: go to university, get that degree, get a job. And since then, I study more, I learn more in a given day than I did even in university, because my business requires that I learn. First of all, learn how to deal with people. Second of all, it's the soft skills. Um, and it's funny because some of my parent friends criticized me because last summer I wrote a workbook and I made my kids learn things like communication skills. They had a curriculum for the summer, and people are like, oh, that's cruel. And I'm like, or turning them loose in the world without some skills is cruel. I tend to see it that way. So what are the skills you actively see now? Because again, it's no longer I know how to code in Python, therefore my job is secure. It's okay, I better learn other things. So, what are the skills you want people to start developing and to recognize as important?
Right. So one skill uh, that has been always a spine of human civilization was communication. Right. Every single even if we go ages back, they started communicating with pictures, and then pictures became word, word became better word, and the polished dictionary and everything came into existence. Now, what is happening, and this is what my belief is, because the current generation and the ecosystem is so isolated, everything happens at a tap or a swipe at your phone. People have stopped communicating their ideas, their vision, and they don't know how to negotiate a communication. When I say how to negotiate a communication, most of the people don't understand this notion. What I mean is, you have to be open to an idea, you have to be responsive to listen, and whenever you are listening to comprehend, not to respond. So this is the huge issue right now. I take like hundreds of interviews every year, and one common issue that I have found in the people is that they don't know how to communicate what they have done. And if you cannot even convince me what you have actually done and you put your hard work in, how can I uh, how can I bet my money on you? So one thing that I have seen is the communication, and the second is learning ability. Like, you have to have a learning ability when everything is changing so fast. You need to have a mindset where you actually want to go and learn. I cannot force feed everything to everyone, because I can make all the mandatory thing that yes, everybody has to go and do XYZ courses. But if you're not willing to learn those courses, you will just make sure that you have watched that 60-minute and did nothing about it. So those are the two most important skills. I think I'll call it the most important skills of 21st century if you want to survive this.
Awesome. Now, I got to tell you an experience I had yesterday, and I hope you find it as amusing as I did. I created a 12 module course. Each module builds on the one before it. And I had a student who it's supposed to take them an hour and they're supposed to submit their homework. They said, well, I don't need to do the homework because I fed it to Chat GPT and Chat said I don't need to do it. And I was like, my course, my rules, but you're breaking the rule, which was you need to do this because ChatGPT doesn't need to learn more. You do. But they're like, oh, I'll just catch up and ChatGPT will fill in the blanks. And I'm like, that's what we've become is these almost we're like RAM, ideas come through us and they vanish. We've stopped trying to commit things to long-term memory. And it was just fascinating to me because I'm like, you're going to fail, not me, not yourself, but in life because you're not willing to put in 30 minutes, 60 minutes to learn a skill you'll use for the rest of your days, or at least until, AI takes over. But that was my aha moment. So it's funny because my list, I had 5 things on them. Mine, I think I'm going to forget one, but one was communication skills. And I break that down into we need to learn how we communicate with ourselves and with other people. And by the way, it turns out podcasting is a good training ground for that because you learn to listen. The second thing was you need to learn how to learn. And honestly, you got to be curious because most people are like, oh, learning something I have to do. I view learning as something I get to do. Then I wanted to look at interpersonal skills because there's more than just communicating. And then the fourth one that comes to mind was entrepreneurial skills, because even if you're an employee, and I take a lot of flack for this and I will die on this hill, you need to think about the problems in your work creatively. And instead of, oh, every day I come in and this doesn't work, well, how could you fix it? Or do you need it? I mean, I worked in an office once, they kept fixing things. And I was like, nobody ever uses it. It gets broke because people drop stuff on it because it's used as storage. Maybe we get rid of the thing and put a shelf in. But I think people need to learn to be curious about problems because honestly, Sameer, what hope does humanity have if we're not problem solvers?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, you're very right. Like, and one question that I usually get is like people come to me and say that how do we identify the problems, right? We want to be a problem solver, but we are not able to identify the problem, right? And that's where the whole notion starts, that you're not actually being curious about what is happening around you. So until unless you're not curious, you will never see anything any wrong. You will be just a complainer, not a someone who seeks that, yes, that there is something that is broken, I can acknowledge it and I can actually go and try to fix it. So I agree with the notions, and every job role has something more or something less. But if we have to sum up the soft skill requirement, I think it uh, one element that I would like to add to your list is adaptability, right? How much adaptable you are to the situation. Most of the people never agree to the situation. So you have to be very agreeable to the situation so that you can actually look at, you can reason what is happening and try to go and figure out the solution of the problems.
I love that. And I think that's the part. I've always been curious, and, you know, every place I go, there's something I can be curious about. I shouldn't admit this, but once I was working late in an accounting firm, it was like midnight and I'm leaving. And there's this guy polishing the floors in the lobby. And he spent an hour telling me how he got that polish because I was curious. I was like, dude, you know, I only ever saw the floor in the daytime when, it's cracked in, people have been walking on it. And I'm like, this is so shiny. How do you get it that way? And he showed me. And my wife's like, what took you so long? And I said, I was learning how to polish floors. And she's like, what are you going to do with that knowledge? I don't know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it'll come in handy somewhere. And, truly, if I ever need a floor polished, I want that guy on my team. But I think that's the challenge. So, and again, I feel deep compassion for people who've been laid off. I know it is. It's a bit of a wake-up call because people go, oh, I have loyalty, I show up every day, they'll value me. And it's like, but it's a business, so you're a resource, and they'll value you until the day they can find someone else who do your work faster, cheaper, better, or sometimes just faster and cheaper. Better is a relative term, but um, the days of absolute faith, back when I was a kid, the story was get a good education, get a good job, get the gold watch. Those days, I don't know if they ever truly existed, but they're definitely not existing today. What do you think of that?
Right. I think like I'll call this as a transitioning phase again, because I think the world is changing at a rapid manner. If we just date back to 20 years ago, right, or 30 years ago, when first internet came into mainstream, right, where everybody wanted to get access of internet, but most of the people didn't understood the dot com, what it was, how to access it, and not everybody can get on top of it. Then came mobile phone, then came laptop. Those were novel technologies. What I mean by that is not everybody had access to it, and it took for some of them decades to get access of it. What those technology breakout were slow, and it didn't reach to the mainstream media. It was not a talking point in the town, but it was everything around technology, and people, technologists knew that, right? Now let me give you an what AI has done, right? I was watching a movie, I forgot the name of the movie. There was a reference that I could have written this with Chat GPT, right? So Chat GPT is now a language in the dialogue of a movie, right? If I
Yeah.
go out and talk to a painter, carpenter, somebody who is selling furniture, automobile, every single person knows about Chat GPT, AI, cloud, any of those LLMs, right? Now, what it does is when the people who are not from the technology stream start talking about technology, it means that it is much more wider and much more bigger than anything that we have ever seen. Now, being said that, what it also does is it gives everybody a fair chance to think what they can do with it. For example, laptop, when it came, uh, only few people understood its utility because they thought this is a machine that they can carry while they are moving so that they can work. AI is not like that. AI is painter having AI who can use the hallucination to create the better art, right?
Yeah.
Nobody thought of that use case. I can give you in writing also that none of the LLM creators ever thought that a painter will use hallucination to create an art, right?
Sorry, I can't let that one pass because at some point, a lot of artists used all kinds of psychedelic drugs to induce hallucinations.
Yeah. But nobody thought like this would be done with a technology, right? Like I can code it out and use the hallucination. So people are writing movies, people are writing, creating the movies with it. You have seen a lot of content creators are in the market because of AI, because they can now edit anything at a click of a button and post any kind of content. Now, what it does to the society. Now, if I look at the society, I'll start thinking if AI is being used everywhere, a enterprise boss or a company boss or the company chairperson or board doesn't have to enforce a technology. There is no push down.
Yeah.
Technology is already being adopted from the bottom level up. So what it does is whoever was the early user of the technology who understood it little better than the other person, uh, because that's how our human psychology works. We think that if somebody knows something better, they might fully understand it. So we retain them. And people who didn't understood it, we said, okay, we don't need you, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and this is what is happening right now also. But that is not the truth, and that is not how the world will work. Because at the end of the day, if there is a doctor, you will never trust an AI doctor to diagnose your body and tell you that take this medicine, right? You will never
Yeah.
trust a robot to do the nursing for you, and it might do 100 times better than a regular nurse. What it will never have is, or it cannot have is, are the emotions, right? The touch factor. When we go out a sales meeting out on a dinner, most of the sales conversion happens on a dinner, on a drink. Why? Because there's a human factor involved to it.
Yeah.
So right now people might lay off because they don't understand how to use this technology and how to fix it into their puzzle. But more or less, again, the rehiring will start, and most of the people will be transformed into a newer kind of roles, right? I believe that there will be roles which will be called like you a human agent approver kind of a thing, who will go and approve whatever agent has done, right? There will be newer systems by which humans will be evaluated than the current system, because in the current system, yes, human fails 100 times over AI, but there will be a newer system because I don't believe a single company on the earth which will just trust an AI to do everything for them. It
No.
will possibly cannot happen because they cannot be friends with me, right? That's something that they have not been trained on. So and then also, if you might have noticed that lot of newer kind of businesses are being created at the same time, right? I'll again use my data science angle. We have seen a lot of layoffs, but at the same time, lot of newer companies are being formed also. They are working
Oh,
toward. Sorry,
no, no, I was just going to say I wanted to chime in on there because I think the key is the old job you had is gone. Now we can all sit around and go, woe is me, or we can look at it. And I'm fascinated because I have friends with arts degrees that everybody used, their parents would be like, oh, look at my kid with the unemployed art degree. All of a sudden, those skills, the thinking skills, are valuable. And I want to point out something really positive. We all have those skills to some degree. If we sharpen them, we'll get exponentially better, right?
100%, 100%. AI was always was made to be an assistant, right? An assistant can only assist if you are good at something. Then only it can boost your productivity or efficiency. So That's exactly how the AI will be used. Uh, I predicted that by the end of 2027, all the AI transition phase will be over, because we would have stabilized like how we are going to use it in our workforces and the process optimization. So looking forward to next, what, like 18 months.
And I think that's the key is, we're going through every change in history.
Yeah.
We had disruption and doom and gloom, and then everybody went, "Oh, this isn't so bad."
Yeah.
And I think I'm starting, it's like we were on this, everybody's shooting to the top. How quickly can we get there? And then at some point, companies are realizing, yeah, it's desirable to eliminate the crap that nobody wants to do. Let's identify those things. But for the stuff that we're going to do, it can and should be about competency and mastery. Again, I'm fascinated by the artisans of old. I genuinely believe we'll go back to that model because people are going to want to see a craftsperson doing something rather than, and people treat AI like a jukebox that, drop a quarter in and you get something out. An adult needs to still look at that and go, it's like in the ancient days of Rome, is that, does it live? Does it die? But if we can't judge the output, what business do we have of using the tool to produce it?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think like a few of the industries will get 100% disrupted, but every industry will have uh, thinkers now more than doers, who can actually
Yeah.
think, reason, and take actions on the things. So the future is not that dark. It's just that bleaky at the moment right now, I'll say.
It's the darkest before the dawn. One thing I realized early, and I hope more people do this, is that AI can actually sharpen you if you use it right and if you let it. Very early, I'm a pattern recognizer, I'm nonlinear thinker. And I went, it doesn't always get it right, but it's always consistently, it asks clarifying questions, it repeats me back to me, and then it gives me the answer. And so I started asking it, what can you teach me about communication? And yeah, we can joke about all the AI slop and, not this, but that. But the reality is, it taught me how to be a better communicator. And then I started it asking how it can help me learn things. And, for me, I recognized my learning style and I said, okay, here's how I learn best. Help me find the resources I need. But again, it's still up to me. Number one, I got to learn it. But number two, I need to test it and make sure that what I'm learning is actually real. Not that AI has been dropping acid and it's hallucinating again. But, I know that throughout history, the creative people, and I don't care if we're talking about artists or the business people, they always look to something to make themselves see clearer or to, like it's always about altering that perception of reality so that, because a sane person would not have invented the airplane. I mean, seriously, how many times did they crash?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Like, and that's what I have been pushing also with the education circuit and academia that I'm in. That we have to train individuals in creative liberal arts and the creative arts, because that actually forces you to think. And every single person who is living, breathing, have and working brain, they can think. And I think there is nothing better than any creative area where you can actually push them to think, and that skill they can take and use it with AI in whatever job that they are doing. They'll be 100 times better than what they are today.
I love that. And, it's funny because the two things I'm seeing, a lot of entrepreneurs I know, they're taking stand up comedy or improv classes.
Yeah.
And tell me that's not about learning how to think on your feet. I mean,
That's right. Yeah. 100%, 100%. Like, and that also makes you ready to take anything on the chin, because and I used to do stand-up comedy uh 7 years ago, and I bombed very badly. But it taught me one thing, that even if my investors are putting me down, or if my board is saying something, it I won't take it to the heart. I'll take
yeah,
it to the chin, and I'll be up and I'll do something. So that that's a very cross functional skill which you can actually apply here. So
yeah,
one more thing is poetry. If you can do
yeah.
poetry, you're actually a thinker, and you can actually do a pattern repetition. So definitely.
Yeah. Well, it's the playful curiosity, playing with words, playing with ideas. But I think, if you think about somebody standing up to hecklers, um, if that's not the best life skill, like to prepare you for anything, I mean, annual reviews at work, or snide remarks in the lunchroom, or dealing with investors, and I think that's fascinating. Now, you are a data scientist, so we were going to get here eventually. I realized with the advent of AI, apparently I was a data scientist waiting to be unleashed, because when I met Google's Kaggle platform, holy crap, I was like, oh my God, I can learn all these things. Um, what I'm pointing out, and this is a segue for you, is there are so many amazing free resources today that are incredibly practical. Kaggle is literally like a portfolio for data scientists and data nerds. And oh my God, kid in a candy store. It's like, oh, I can do this and I can do that.
Yeah.
But it's communal learning, I guess, rather than, and again, I think universities had their time, but now we don't have the patience for 4-year degrees. It's my wife works in an industry where it takes about 6 months to get somebody fully trained after they've had a 4-year university degree. That's a gap.
Yeah. 100%. I agree. I agree. Yeah.
So, what resources do you have, or do you recommend for people who, because upskilling can be a little bit scary, but honestly, you go home and binge watch 10 hours of some TV show on Netflix, you could also spend 5 of those learning a skill. What do you think of that?
Right. So I'll tell you how do I upskill first, and then I'll tell you like what do I
Yeah.
prescribe. I learn things by doing it, right? And I give myself luxury of failure, that or I'll call it freedom of failure, because I give myself that even if I fail, I'm okay, right? So let's say I want to create a supply chain software, or supply chain. I want to solve supply chain of oils around the world. I'll go and I'll try to create a business case. I'll try to create a solution around it. And meanwhile, I'll be doing it. I'll go and learn how the world works around oil and supply chain. So it gives me the theoretical knowledge of what I need to do, and the practical knowledge of how do I solve that problem. And then because I come from a software background, data background, it gives me a lot of different things which I can play with do with data, or play with it, right? Now, one thing that I have been using is every government institution around the world publishes their data around
Yeah.
employment, around supply chain, around logistics, around budgets. You can take that data and use it to create a lot of use cases for yourself, for your business, and actually understand what is working and what is not working based on the real actual data, which is free of cost, available to everyone. Now, the third thing is you need to actually understand how to use that data, or how to apply those skills. Every major platform, be it Google, be it Meta, they have free courses on their platform. Go to scholars.google, go to Google Colab, go to Google, I think they call it education.
Yeah.
They have free certifications, everything that is there, which you can go and learn. If you don't know how to code, you can go and learn it. And the fourth important thing is every major business report, which is McKinsey, which is BCG, which is EY, every year they write a lot of reports which tells about what is happening in the world. Now, since we are talking to the entrepreneurs, let's say those are the most important reports that you should go and read, because it gives you whether you are thinking in that direction where world is thinking. Are you trying to solve a problem that whole world is viewing, or are you working on something which can be a signal which is hidden in those reports, those trends? So my upskilling is, I won't ever think that I have to do something for cybersecurity, so I'll go and read 5 things in cybersecurity. But how I would identify what I need to upskill is, I'll figure out a problem that I'm seeing. I'll read the report, figure out a problem. I'll try to create a solution. And while creating the solution, I'll try to figure out what all the things that I should need to know. And then I will go and learn it. So at the real time, I'm actually applying the skills that I'm learning to solve something. And then if I have created something fruitful, I can anytime commercialize it and sell it to the people.
I love it. By the way, my favorite source of data is Reddit, because there's a whole bunch of random people who, not to put them down, but don't necessarily understand their problems, so they rant about it. As an entrepreneur, to me, those rants are gold.
Yeah.
I love looking at an industry, and I'll find the Reddits on there, and I'll look at what are the gaps these people are losing sleep over, and quite frankly losing their minds about. That to me is like, we have so much data, so much market research. We can really fill some voids. The other thing I want to chime in is that pretty much every major university on the planet is now offering free courses, and I can spend I actually met somebody who said, oh yeah, I studied at MIT, and I'm like, no, you studied at home in your pajamas through MIT's website. Not the same thing.
Not the same thing. Not at all. Yeah. Don't use big university names as it means
I
nothing.
still respect the people who got out of bed and went to school. I mean, there's something to be said, and it's not same. But I think now, and so I'm going to give you a little cheat that I use, Sameer, because I don't see a lot of people doing this. If I'm looking at an industry, I start by looking at the conferences people in that industry go to, and those agendas are just gold to me, because this is what, because at a conference, you're either going to see one of two things. One, these are the best practices based on the data we have. Or if you stock, say, an NVIDIA conference, this is where the industry is going. You may not keep up, but you at least need to know where it's going. And then I start to follow the content. So whatever social media platform I'm on, which is only LinkedIn, I follow the experts who spoke at the conference, and I can see their thought process unfolding real time. That's better than sitting in a classroom listening to somebody ramble on about the theory of a thing. So
Yeah, I agree. That is where we started the conversation also. Like, we need to bring industry into the mix, right? You cannot just believe that university will do everything, because they might not know what is happening or what has happened in the last 3 months, because their curriculum is very much set and they cannot change curriculum mid-semester. So you need, I think your approach works really good.
Well, I think it's funny because a lot of universities have tried this approach. They have co-op programs. There's a couple of universities here where they do a lot of industry research. I think it's not do I go to university or do I get a job? I feel like we need to bring academia into the businesses and business into academia, because if somebody's getting funded to research something hypothetical, wouldn't that energy be better spent on solving problems that, because my world, I'm an entrepreneur. I solve one problem once, I've built this base level. I then look at the next problem, and all of a sudden we're escalating. Whereas if I'm in a vacuum doing research, I may spend my entire academic career researching a problem nobody cares about or needs.
No, I agree. I believe research is important, but I also believe that the funding, if placed in the right place with the right set of researchers who actually create a solution, not just research papers, I think the world will be in much better place. But apparently, uh, nowadays everything is business, right? Or how do you
Yeah.
move the money from here to there? So unless until we don't get out of that loop, I see it very hard to make it happen.
Well, one thing I'm thinking about, I knew a lot of people doing PhDs and research. Back in the day, it was virtually free because you took a little nerd, you sent him to the library and said, "Have at her, see you in 4 years."
Mm.
Now, the resources, like when we're looking at big data centers and large data sets, there's a real cost to that research.
Yeah, yeah, like and it's expensive. Like not just uh, cost in terms of money, but in cost in terms of resources also. The water, the energy, the GPU, the semiconductor chips that needs to be made, and it has become itself a different, a parallel economy right now. If you look at the top four companies right now, valued at more than $1 trillion, you'll figure out like they are they are bunch of warehouses which has data racks and they are storing the data, nothing
Yeah.
else. This is the business, and they're valued over $1 trillion, which is, if I combine the top, I think four companies, they'll outperform, if I'm not wrong, around 80% of the countries around the world. So
It fascinates me. You're a data scientist. I'm a data nerd. I don't use scientist lightly because to me that denotes expertise. I'm just always playing. But the Pareto principle always comes in, and if you look at the curves, it's always 4 or 5 top producers doing most of the outcomes. Most of the innovation can come from the lower end, but the big ones are where it becomes household use.
Mhm.
And for what it's worth, I started designing my own private LLMs. Now I'm building my data sets, knowing that at some point the thing I'm building for today is going to be obsolete, and my data better be ready for the next iteration.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, we used to have a term data is gold. I think that is coming to actual fruition because everybody can have their own LLM. But
Yeah.
whoever will own the data, they will dictate the market because data set is very hard to get. And also the real data set, right? Not the harvested one. Harvested one is still, it will make sense, but the real data set, uh, that's what, like, I believe, like every single business entity can be a data center in itself because they
Yeah.
own the real data, and as humanized data as it can be. So you're
Well,
right, like.
Well, and one thing I'll point out is that if we look at the monolith, the megacorps, all of them have data.
Yeah,
Google is, it started as a search engine, but man, they're actually in the data business. You look at Microsoft, you look at Apple, whether you know it or not, data is at the heart of it.
yeah,
And I think that's the piece, Sameer, I'm going to give some hope to world, and I want your thoughts. The ability to ponder data, to be able to manipulate it and massage it, because data is just raw ore. It's not gold yet. we
yeah,
we have to
yeah,
process it.
yeah, yeah. You're right. Like, uh, I remember, like, I think I was reading a report by, if I'm not wrong, Deloitte, about the New York or some place housing market, right? And the abnormality of the rent, most of the people will go and calculate that might be due to the school district and XYZ thing. But
Yeah.
if you will add a news data with that housing data, you'll figure out the rents went up on every year when the something happened in some part of the world, right?
Yeah.
So it's your ability how you can think and cross functionally add a lot of different data. You don't have to be data scientist, you have to be data curious. If you are
Yeah.
data curious and you are someone who follows the news, I'll say, like, again, I don't believe in the current news system because I get news from every source and I don't know which one to trust anymore. But
Yeah.
if you follow the news and if you follow the history, you'll be able to attach a lot of different data sources with each other, and things will start making sense, which ideally should not.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I love that. And for what it's worth, I'm always I'm a Venn diagram person. So give me one or two data points, I can come close. But five seems to be the magic number. If I can overlap five different sources, there's something hiding in the center that most people didn't know existed. Now, you and I could spend hours talking about data. We won't this time. Now, for my audience, where can they go to connect with you, learn more about you, find out what you actually do for a living, and find out how to collaborate with you?
right. So the easiest place is LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there, and just shoot me a DM and I'll definitely respond.
Awesome. Well, Sameer, I want to thank you for taking your time and nerding out with me, because it's always fun to talk about education and data in the same breath. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me. It was fun. Thank you so much.